Hi, I'm Rachel the Good Witch of the Northeast and welcome to my channel. I'm doing a thing where it's like a weekly astrological look ahead for your elemental signs. So this is for our water signs. So Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, if you have these three signs in your sun, moon, rising, or your North Node or Venus placement, this message will be for you. Obviously listen with discernment, but I think with Venus going retrograde, I think a lot of people should be listening to their Venus placement sign, like those readings. So I'm just looking to see what you guys have coming in. Full disclosure, I did already start recording and I stopped because it just, I was getting a little too defensive. As a reader, I like to try and remain impartial, but when I can pick up on people like healing from abuse, I get really righteous. So had to just check myself real quick and just start over. But this is good. So a lot of this is actually pretty much as I hope we had last time too. Awesome. Most of you, what do you guys are, a lot of what you were doing right now is learning to discern when you were right with your intuition and when you were wrong. I think there's a lot about gaslighting, healing from gaslighting, I think, and healing your that's what it is. Thank you. 121. That's what it is. Okay. Most of you are super fucking intuitive. But most of you were born into bloodlines that have a very large fear around the spiritual realm. Like I'm thinking even people who would consider themselves Christian. There's a lot of like misinterpreting the messages. And that affected your intuition. And I think that's been a real issue. Like other people have been telling you you're wrong. There's a lot here about kind of karmic justice coming around with your intuition, like learning where you were wrong, like I said, and seeing that in full evidence. It feels like a lot of you are doing a lot of ancestral healing. And that's what's funny is when when I tap into people's spirit guides, a lot of the energy I feel, especially from like those big thumper holy rollers, is like, oh fuck, I was wrong, bro. I was wrong. You know? So it seems like there is a lot because when it's a lot of you are healing. It's your it's 3 generations back. There was a masculine energy that was abusive due to fear. So whether they had a really traumatized childhood and they had to like protect themselves, they went on, had a family and instilled those traumatic responses into them. That's what a lot of you, and a lot of that is tied into your intuition. I see a lot of you having these a lot. I see one of my friends told me when she was a kid, she said something very matter-of-factly that ended up coming true. And I feel like a lot of you are like that. Like you guys were just playing with dolls one day and then you looked up and you're like, hey, this is gonna happen. And that scared the shit out of whoever you were talking to. It affected who you are as a kid. It affected who you are as a person. That sucks, bro. That like other people's that other people's fear has gotten in the way. But however, you do have this opportunity now to kind of come home to self and live authentically. And when you do that, that's for your ancestors too. I think a lot of your ancestors, especially in this like collective, most of your ancestors are doing the, fuck, I was wrong, you know? There's a lot here about looking at the spiritual side and the spiritual existence with optimism. And especially when it comes to religious trauma, because like the God I grew up believing in when I was like suffering all of this like sexual and physical, emotional and mental abuse is not the energy I have now, you know? And I consider my relationship with the spiritual very strong. Well, that's a good word. And like recognizing that like I wasn't alone. And I think a lot of you are kind of coming to the same realization. It's weird to describe. A lot of you too are letting go this toxic energy when it comes to what the masculine should be. Unlearning what safe is to you and unlearning what financially productive is to you, learning what productive is to you, because it's not the same for everybody. That's where I think a lot of people are struggling when it comes to authenticity, is recognizing that we're all different. Like, I don't know one neurotypical person. Not a single one. So I think it's like right now, things are going to be uncomfortable because it's going to be learning that your intuition was right. So honestly, from from someone who went through that, I recommend doing a lot of root chakra work and a lot of recognizing physically how you feel in your body. Like I get a lot of my downloads, they come in energetically in my body, and I can recognize when it's happening now. And also that's helping me go back and like put shit together. Like someone will say something and I'll recognize a feeling I had when I was a kid when someone was lying to me about something and I knew I was right, you know? So super helpful. But you guys are doing a really good job at already embracing that. So if you want to take it one step further and do like the root energy meridian, like great. You don't have to, because you guys are doing a really good job. Even just surrendering to the process is more than enough. You need someone to come in and tell you what a good job you're doing. You definitely do. You need almost not like a professional hype man, but having someone come in and show you that victory is happening. Because sometimes we need that. We need someone to come in and physically shake us and be like, this isn't real. Like, look at all the good you have. That also, I think because a lot of what you're dealing with is ancestral, is you're not going to see the ties because you're so close. So really, you know what? That's a good idea. For the next 2 to 3 weeks, try and look at your messages or your readings or however you get your, whether that's like journaling, whatever, try and look at things through an ancestral perspective. I think that might be what they're trying to do with you too. If you're starting to see a lot of like numbers, especially a lot of, for some reason, mirrored numbers. So like 414, you know, like obviously like I think 1111, 111, the normal traditional angel numbers are very apparent, but I think mirrored numbers are very important right now. And if that is accurate, tie that into ancestral, because it's almost like they're trying to show you in the 5D, whatever. Oh, it sounds so new agey. Yeah, I think you've been an intuitive person for lifetimes, and I don't think you've always felt comfortable in this realm, and that's fair. It's just finding your people, finding the people who don't judge you. Because if I talked to a normal person, was like, oh, I talked to the dead and listened to the voices in my head. What? So, find people who think like you do. There is a new beginning, but you cannot trust it. And that's fair. And I think a lot of it is tied into your intuition. So like doing some work in like the root work will be beneficial, but also decalcifying your third eye. I accidentally blew mine open with too much THC oil one day. That's kind of how I started this. But so learning that you can trust it, I think the mirror numbers are tied into new beginnings too. So if you find yourself like ruminating on a thought, especially if you see like, say you're driving and you're ruminating on a thought and you see a license plate with like a 99999, that's spirit being like, stop, collaborate and listen. But no, they're saying stop and pay attention. They're not gonna start singing Ice Cube to you. That was an Ice Cube. I'm talking like you guys can respond. I cannot believe I just called Vanilla Ice Ice Cube. I can't believe I just said that. And it's shame, Rachel, shame. I brought shame upon myself. Things are gonna feel tight for a little while, and I think you're gonna feel pretty secluded in your aha moments, especially if you fight them. But I think the more you come around to looking at things through a lens of I was right, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You're learning how to come home to yourself right now, and that's very uncomfortable, and that's okay. And being okay with that is very okay. Learning to be authentic, especially when I think a lot of you were bullied. A lot of you were bullied. So think about what you liked to do when you were 6 or 7. I think that's when you were like the happiest. So think about that and how you could do that as an adult, whether that was like, say that you liked, like when I was a kid, I liked to spend time outside talking to clouds and playing with rocks. It's what I do for a living now, you know, and that brings me the most fucking joy. The most joy. So, you know, maybe you could do like, you know, fucking crystal mining or some shit. I don't know. Find some way, like there is a tie-in between what you like to do as a kid that will bring you joy and healing now. Painting. If you like to draw as a kid, paint now. There's really something very special about healing childhood wounds with adult money. Anything in the water signs have anything to look forward to? I don't mean it like that. What can they look forward to? Any words of affirmation, words of advice, anything that the water signs, anything beneficial. Those are not yours. I think they're annoyed with me. Oh, okay. You've really been going through it when it comes to intimacy and believing in yourself. That's been the biggest, I think. And also believing that things can look different. I think you've been very stuck in this lens of everything kind of always fucking up, whether it's relationships with intimacy, whether it's like business, you not being able to trust yourself. There's been a lot of that. And I think that's where most of your pain is, to be honest with you. Your ancestors are the ones behind the intimacy healing. So behind your sacral energy. Those are your ancestors. They're the ones who are trying to help with that. I do think, I'm trying to find the words here, hold on. Sexual assault was something that was never really talked about or healed, especially prior to like the last like 20 years, 10 years. Look into that, please. For most of you, look into that. Whether that's, you know, meditation, fucking yoni cleaning, steaming, something. A lot of you have ancestral, like, there wasn't the healthiest sexual ties for you ancestrally. So if you've struggled with that in this lifetime, that would make sense to me. And you're supposed to live like authentically, and that's where our power comes from. It comes from our sacral center. So embodying that, and honestly, like every time you can heal and every time you celebrate and are happy, like that's one step forward. That's for your ancestors too. That's who I honestly feel the most right now, is like the feminine ancestral tie. Can't remember. Okay, so this is Archangel Gabriel. I think a lot of you too will speak truth for your ancestors. I don't know why, but it feels like for some reason you do a really good job at putting voices to things that didn't have one. There's something really healing about when you do ancestral work, acknowledging the forgotten ones. So like your ancestors that passed away that you don't have any knowledge of. There's something really powerful about that, because they're the ones who fucking deserve it the most. You know, if we think about there's so fucking many. But yes, back to you and your healing. You're doing so like speaking your truth, assigning a voice to things that didn't have one. That will be very beneficial. Working through your the worthiness, like the deserving aspect. It's tied in directly to you believing other people know more than you do. That also comes from, I think a lot of you had narcissistically driven parents, like feminine. I think a lot of that is also ancestral. But if things feel uncomfortable for you, if you were raised by like an emotionally immature woman like this, that your self-worth will be impacted by it. So recognizing that that's the person who probably operated out of fear the most, you know, that feels accurate. So recognize that they're the ones who operate out of fear. You don't have to. You are deserving of good things. You do know more than other people. I think you always have too, since you were a kid. I think you knew more than your parents. One more about that one, please. Okay. So the more you put yourself out there, the more, I think a lot of you too are recognizing when is something like a lesson that's coming into play and when you should respond differently. Start doing that. Don't just sit there and be like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to do that. Take the fucking opportunity, because the opportunity is going to keep repeating itself, but it doesn't have to. No one's going to push you into your healing, unfortunately. Trust me. I've wanted them to. No one's going to do this for you. And things are going to look different, and you have to be okay with that too. So like perhaps looking at ancestrally where control comes from, because that always does come from a place of just trying to keep yourself safe. So recognizing that as well. I think a lot of you really should look into, there's a great book, Ancestral Medicine by Dr. Daniel Four. I don't really, actually, haven't finished yet. So I don't know if it's problematic or not. Never mind. So back to ancestral medicine. Heal that shit. Full disclosure, I've never done anything like this before, so I have no idea what I can cut out and how to do it. So I don't know. So this is going to be fun how to post. Yeah, Reiki would be beneficial. Just honestly dancing outside, that would be beneficial. Standing outside in the rain. a lot of going back to your roots. That's where, honestly, go back to your roots. I don't think you need anything else more than that. I think that's going to hit home for most of you. I love you. Blessed be.